You and I with Rashmi Shetty is a human library audio podcast bringing in stories of people you and I can draw inspiration from. Welcome to the third season of this amazing story listening journey. Ordinary folks, extraordinary lives, their uniqueness and individuality, making them interesting to talk to and to listen to, each one of them completely connected to the voice in me and with motivational stories of moving beyond themselves to make a difference in the world. A reaffirmation of the fact: open your eyes wider. The world is far more beautiful when we acknowledge the presence of both you and I. Our guest today is Gautami T.S., an aeronautical engineer who turned a passion for flight into a breakthrough for Indian deep tech. As the co founder and CEO of the Bengaluru based startup Aqua AirX, Gautami is co leading the charge with India's first drone capable of operating seamlessly across two worlds, air and underwater, even in challenging real sea states. She is responsible for driving the company's overall strategic direction, partnerships, fundraising, and investor engagement. She leads business development initiatives across defense, energy, and maritime sectors while focusing on building strong institutional relationships and scaling organizational capabilities. Gautami's journey is a beautiful amalgamation of technical excellence, hard work, strategic vision, and resilience. Listen in as Gautami shares her journey authentically and also has a word for women, especially those in the male dominated sectors. Her story is one of magical grit, a reminder that when you combine technical mastery with an independent spirit, you don't just follow the future, you build it. Hi, Gautami. Welcome to You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Always a pleasure to see you, talk to you, and catch up. I remember the first time we met. I was fascinated with the world that you are connected with, a space where women are not normally seen in huge numbers. But before we get to what you're currently doing, which is truly inspiring, I would like to know what little Gautami was like. Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like? And school, college? Take us through your childhood.
Thank you so much, Rashmi ma'am. It's my pleasure to be here and speaking with you. And I have always been a huge fan for your voice. Thanks for having me on this call. To begin with, I think I was born and brought up in T. Narsipura. It's a taluk near Mysuru. I come from this heritage cultural city, and we were a joint family. Most of my time I have spent with my cousins and largely, 10, 15 people type of a structure in the home. And that kind of gave me a lot of different perspective on people, handling different people in your own home, right? Everybody's different. And the way you also deal with everybody is different as a kid. And my dynamics used to be with everybody very, very different. And also from the schooling side, if you see, like, though we had like a lot of cousins together, me and my brother got to go to a better school because my parents were like, no, we want to definitely give them a good education. And because we studied in good school, my parents, whatever best they could afford, they sent us to the good school available in our village. And in school, it really matters a lot on your friends, the teachers, and everybody. So I was like somebody who used to be part of everything. I couldn't resist myself in doing one thing, but I used to always be part of everything that is happening in the school. So kind of, so I used to also keep certain, cutoffs for me in education because that's like no brainer. If you have to actually get to a better college, if you have to go back and ask my dad, what, sponsor me college in here or there, I have to always make sure that I get a good grades throughout my schooling. So I always had like, okay, 90% is my target. I have to either be up, nothing down. So that used to be in my head. Like I used to study wise, very disciplined in that manner. And also while I was making sure my grades are good, I couldn't also study all the time. Like I'm somebody who just studies like few days before the exam and tries to get some good marks, whatever possible. And more, I would always love to be on teams. I was like captain for kabaddi team, captain for volleyball team. I was in my debate team in my school. You know, that type of exposure in both cultural, sports, and a lot of communication front, and also as to lead my school's assembly, right? So as first female who is to do all of that in our batch, like I happen to be on that position. So I've always, been around such things. That gave me a lot of confidence. I think as a kid, I've gained so much confidence in life through these exercises. That when you're able to speak better, when you're able to debate better, even in your mother tongue. I used to do all of this in Kannada. I
Oh,
used to do, yeah, everything was in Kannada, not in English. So I was like, in our school, it was an English medium for sure, but because of the, regional language and because of the entire, like, nobody speaks English in home. Because of this, we used to study everything in Kannada and used to communicate in Kannada. So your entire schooling happened in Kannada, kind of. So
okay.
when you're debating, it's never a language barrier, but even in your own language, when you're doing all of these things, it gives you a lot of confidence.
True.
When you go win some trophy, compete with other schools, I used to enjoy that. Like competitions for me are like, it's a different level of kick.
Motivation.
Yeah, I used to enjoy like more than being in classrooms. I think I've 80% of my time used to be either on ground practicing for next sports annual day or any culturals or preparing for some event. I should always enjoyed that part of
But
things.
what was who was your inspiration behind bringing that side of you out? Were you a very competitive person, as in not with outside world, but with yourself? Like I should better
Yeah,
myself. I should be the
correct,
best
correct. I've
version of myself.
always, I always
Okay.
beat myself to do better. Like, and like,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
always like, so let's say even in academics, if I drop on some subject, if I get less, I would be like putting more efforts towards how can I pick up.
Mm.
Even in sports, like if I see like, okay, like if we have like some five people who are doing good and I'm not doing good, I would go back and see why am I not able to do, what's the mistakes.
Mm.
I was always very competitive in that manner. Anything that I do, I always take it to my head and
Mm.
compete, to myself. Like for example, you know that this is you're doing some task and you know that you're not doing it to your full potential.
Mm.
That kind of kills me, right? When I know, okay, this is not my potential, and I a lot of times even now it happens, right? Like I want to do something but it's not happening to my full potential. That kills, right? I have to literally go back and see how can I do my best here, how can I do my to the full potential I have. And that kind of keeps triggering me to do something better. Always from childhood it has been like that.
Because I'm curious, Gautami, you had a brother with you. It is not even that there was competition with another sibling. It was a brother, and boys and girls are very different, though you're brought up in the same household. So, who was the trigger for you to bring out your best each time? What is it that within you prompted you to bring out your best version each time?
So at different age, it was different situations. Like as you said, me and my brother, but though it's the same home, the way we both, grew up was very different.
Different, yeah.
My brother was very shy and not very, he can't go and confidently speak or scold somebody. Where I was the against rebel kid
Okay.
in
So
our.
you were the older one, is it? You were the older
I'm Yeah. So
of the
I
two
have an
of you?
elder brother.
Okay, okay.
I have my elder brother, but till 10th, he was very shy and he was like,
Okay, okay.
he would get hit and come to home, but I was somebody who would hit back and come home. My parents were more scared that, okay, I would do something to others rather than I'm getting hurt by them. So that
Okay.
used to be the dynamics between me and my brother. And a
Yeah.
lot of time, so in home, like I started becoming more rebel because it's joint family. I used to see
Mhm.
that how partiality happens,
Yeah.
and if I see that they're not giving importance to my mother, I used to literally go, because
Right.
my mother still narrates stories to me where she says that there was an instant where everybody in my home were sitting on a chair and my mother was sitting down. And I was very young that time, maybe 6 years or something. And I just kept telling my mother to sit on chair and pulled her until she sits on chair. I didn't leave her. So she still narrates that stories to me. Like I was like that. I couldn't tolerate if something is going bad to my parents or especially my mother. I used to always be on that protection side of it. So that all that instances, then when I came to school, like I had some good teachers who used to motivate a lot, who used to tell us a lot about the world and uh, a lot of our historians. And when they used to say some things like that, it used to motivate me to do, okay, we need to do something for the country. We need to do something for the country. Every year, my ambition used to change. Some days I wanted to be like Sania Mirza in the sports when I do good with sports. Some other days I have to be like IS officer. Then some other days I have to be something else. This used to always change as I grew up.
Yeah.
But finally, when I was in my high school, I decided, you know what, all of this used to change over a period of time, but something that stuck with me for a long time is aeronautics, because I wanted to join ISRO. That was my entire life's ambition, was to join ISRO.
Okay.
Every hard work I've done from 8th grade is to just join ISRO, which didn't happen. We
Okay.
took a different course, but everything that I did, from waking up to sleep, everything that I used to do was just to make sure, okay, I get good admission in good college, I get good engineering, then I get to go to ISRO. That was all my motivation
And
throughout.
any particular reason why ISRO?
So at that point, the only thing I knew was ISRO. I was also not too much aware of other things. And APJ Abdul Kalam was one of the inspiration.
Okay.
And I didn't know much. We didn't get to read a lot.
Yeah.
Resources were very
Correct.
limited. I didn't even know about NASA. The only thing I knew was ISRO. So I was like, okay, I have to go to ISRO. It's in India. I want to join ISRO. That was the whole motivation for me in the childhood. I used to love my Kannada teacher for the type of
Okay.
stories he used to tell, especially the way he used to narrate Mahabharata for us. I used to love his sessions. Mahabharata was something that I picked up from him very well. I wanted to know more, know more. And then this series, right? Used to get these serials where you have this Mahabharata and Ramayana. So I used to follow them and pick up those stories. So these were the only things. Even debate used to go on my own. Basic sense and common sense, whether it's right or wrong is secondary, but I used to do on my own assumptions and presumptions that I have.
You finished your 10th, did well, 12th, both in the same school. You completed 10th and 12th.
12th, I moved to Mysore. So once I completed my 10th, I wanted to take up PCMB. In our village, there is no good colleges to pursue PCMB, so we have to come to the city. And my parents are, in T. Narsipura, and I have to travel to Mysore to study. Even, that time I, had to opt for an option. Like I had a admission in a better school college in Mysore, but I have to opt for another college which is near to my village. So my transport, is not. And I was in a belief that good students can study anywhere. Like even my parents used to tell, it doesn't matter where you
Yeah.
study, it's you who makes that place better and all of that. To an extent, I bought it when I was young, and I joined a college, Genius PU College, which was near to my village. It could 30 minutes travel time. And there so as a person, I developed myself much better,
Oh.
because from school, the dynamics were very different. From PU college, the dynamics are very different. The type of people you are surrounded with is very different. And there I met a professor. His name is Sudhir sir. I think he changed my life, right? He was my math professor. The amount of confidence that he has put in me and the amount of help he has done for me in my PU time, like nobody would have done that to me. First PU, I took it very lightly. I was like, we'll see what happens level. And second PU, I became little serious. By the time I become serious, it was already time. And I was like not at all prepared for my boards and not prepared for my CT exam. Then finally I make a choice, okay, we'll go to this expert coaching and learn something there and clear off the exams. Then when I go there, it was a tragedy that coaching really doesn't help. So I had my professor's number dialed in. Like you get to call them once a week with these coins. That's how in Mangalore the coaching centers
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
And I had fitted only two numbers. One is my father number, then my professor number. I had option to put two people number. I chose my professor number because he was very close to me. And I called him and I asked him, sir, I'm not able to study here. Should I come back? I don't think so. I'll study anything here. So he just gave me one advice. He said, you have 10 days left. You don't study mathematics at all. Whatever you can study chemistry, physics. The day you come back, come to my home directly. I will prepare you for maths. And he stood by his word. I left the coaching center one day before the final thing. I didn't join for the conclusion and whatever program. Came back the next day morning. I went to his home directly. So for the next 10 days before the actual CT exam, from morning 10 o'clock till 5 6, he used to train me on maths techniques, everything, like just like his own daughter. Everybody were jealous actually that he's giving more attention to me, but that person has put in so much confidence in me. And he was aiming that you should get 100 on 100 in maths. And he taught me everything so well that no other coaching center taught me for last 30 days. Then I was in my craziest period, that day night. I was just like, whatever sir thought, I have to study. I have to make sure I get good marks. It's his reputation also. He's putting extra efforts for me. That changed because he helped me. I was able to get good ranking in my CET and then opted for engineering. That is also another story. Usually when you complete your PU, you have to opt for colleges. Me being that confident or overconfident kid, what I did was, I was very sure I wanted to do aeronautical engineering. Parents didn't wanted me to go to Bangalore or any other place. And in Mysore, we don't have aeronautical engineering. So they were like, do whatever you get in Mysore. I was like, no, I have to somehow, get out of Mysore and do something. So what I did is, the problem is if you get a seat in Mysore, you have to study in Mysore. So I tried to play smart and never didn't choose any
College.
colleges that are in Mysore. I only applied to, like, I remember, like, I had this is like, like foolishness. I had only applied to 5 colleges without knowing that how you're supposed to apply for. I was doing it all by myself. I didn't had anybody in my family who had done it earlier and to
Guide you.
guide me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was doing all by myself. So I went on and I just applied for like some 5 colleges, and first round I didn't get any college allotted to me. I was like very scared. Then I thought, okay, fine, this is first round. No, second round I'll anyways get. Then second round again I didn't get anything. Then I started talking to my friends. They're like, I have applied to 50 colleges. I'm like, are you serious? Are we supposed to apply for 50 colleges? And that too, I have not applied for different branches. I was only applied like, okay, top 5 college, aeronautical, that's it. My quota done. I've not even given a try for other branches or other colleges. Then I was very, very scared that, okay, 1 year I lose if I don't get through it. And I knew my parents wouldn't sponsor me for any other management quota. So I also prepared. I told my parents, don't cry, please listen. If it happens like this, what we'll do, I'll take a break, I'll prepare for JE, and next year we'll apply. My mother started scolding me. What will relatives tell? Your cousin has already got college allotted. How come you didn't get college? Everybody thought I actually got less marks compared to my cousin. That's why I've not got allotment in the first and second round. I was like, that is not how it is. Don't worry, let them talk whatever they want. Then we just waited for the third round results to come. In the third round, I got Nite Meenakshi, which was my first preference.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I'm saved now. Finally, I got a college, and we had a very short window to go and do all the process. My parents came to Bangalore. First time I also came to Bangalore. So they were very concerned because Nitte is usually very far from the city.
Yeah.
You have to take like 2 to 3 buses to reach. And back in 2017, this was like a jungle. They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, which place have you come? We have no idea. There's nobody here to guide. Like, don't worry, hostel is there. They, got me settled and went home. I think after coming to Bangalore, I think it was very different for me. And whatever I have become is because of coming here and exploring those opportunities. Otherwise, I would have not happened to be around such good people and opportunities that I have today.
Yeah, they always say that life is what happens while you're busy planning. And
Correct.
in your case, you had a checkered path. You made sure that you did your 10th year, moved on to a bigger place for your 11th and 12th, your PU, and then college finally chose you.
Yeah,
And
correct.
you are now in college doing the engineering branch that you wanted to, aeronautical. So, when you got into aeronautical, is it because you wanted to get into ISRO, you thought aeronautical engineering
Correct.
will help you, and that's why you opted for it?
Correct.
Oh,
Correct. My professor told, okay, you do aeronautical, you will get into ISRO. I didn't even give
oh,
a second thought. I was like, okay, my professor told I have to get into ISRO. I have to study aeronautics. Simple. My math was very simple. Okay, these two people told that means they'll tell for my good only. I was, trusting my professor, so much that I just jumped into aeronautical and started preparing for this from my PU, right? I was doing all the things to get into ISRO so I could study aeronautical. And also, people told, okay, if you have to get aeronautical, you need good cutoff. Then
yeah.
all my preparation was towards that, and it finally happened.
Yeah. So you were very focused on what you wanted. And now that you got into the college of your choice and in the branch that you wanted to do, was college again a blooming of who Gautami could be? Did you take part in every co-curricular activity, or were you so focused that now from here I need to go to ISRO, so I need to be in the top 1 percentile of the college? Was it like that? What was college life like?
Okay, so like as a person, I want to always do best, but I am somebody who also can't stick to one thing. That's like a inbuilt behavior or something. I like even academics. I can't tolerate it for such a long period. I
Okay.
need something for extra curricular activities. When I came to Nitte, I think Nitte was like a reality check because I couldn't speak good English. I I didn't know basically anything. The type of friends I had here, I mean, these are all people who made me who I am today,
Right.
especially my co-founder also Jitendra. When I came here, large part of Nitte was a lot of North Indians, and everybody had their own teams, their own friend
Yeah.
circle
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
speak in Hindi.
Yeah.
It was very difficult for me to even catch up on English. Forget Hindi. Hindi I used to not even understand. Just catching up on English was so difficult, and I used to understand English, write, read, everything. But speaking was always a problem for me.
Mm.
And I happened to sit with my friend on the first day. She's from, I think, Orissa. She speaks amazing English. I
Mhm.
was like, okay, what am I doing in this world? How am I even going to survive this type of uh, environment? Then I still remember first 2 days when I spoke to them, people laughed at my face because I still remember like I did like direct sentence to an indirect sentence and I spoke to them. I was so embarrassed that day. And I knew in my head what I'm speaking is wrong, but I don't have an option if I have to convey something in English because they don't understand Kannada. And we had very less people who would speak Kannada. So there was only two options. Either you get embarrassed and think, okay, you're not going to talk to this person again, shy away from learning, or you're like, okay, let them, laugh at my face 10 more times, but I'll learn from this person. So that person was very good with its vocal and communication and English, Hindi, with people. So I said, okay, I'll sit with her only. No matter how many times she laugh at me, I'll sit with her and learn from her. So that way, I managed to learn over a period of 1 2 years, pick up from everybody around and learn a little bit of Hindi from everybody around. And I also met Jitendra in second year because gap was so much that I used to not talk to any North Indians. One, because I don't know Hindi. Second, I used to not get their jokes. You know, for both these reasons, never happened to meet any other people in my team, in my class. I used to be around like 4 5 people and manage with them. In first year, I also joined NCC. So gave audition and got selected because I was also tall. They
Mm.
took me,
Yeah.
and yeah, they took me. And so when I joined, also right, I was the last second one to get selected in NCC also.
Okay.
when I passed out, I was on the top leadership team. I was like the second rank holder in the. We even tell today in NCC, the last two candidates who got selected were in the top two positions when we were graduating. It exactly happened that way in NCC. So NCC again taught me a lot. In NCC, you had to know Hindi because everybody there communicates in Hindi. I used to not even understand not even understand anything that they speak. So I used to ask people, okay, what are they talking? Please translate it to me. Some people used to, some people used to not. And then start learning it with my friends, started talking to them, Butler Hindi, and they used to laugh at us. They used to make fun of our Hindi. We're like, okay, you do whatever, just teach us a couple of more words and picked up from them. And in second year, we had this so for me, first year of engineering was like seeing all of these people who are very competitive. Then I used to rank myself, okay, if I have to get into ISRO, these are the people I'm competing with. And I stand no chance because I knew they were all smarter, well spoken, brilliant students than what I was. Apart from academics, everybody were good with a lot of things, and I wasn't. So I was like, okay, you know what? I have to learn from these people. If I have to go to ISRO tomorrow, then I need these skills. I can't be like this. Then I started learning, and for me, it was all about okay, by the time I graduate engineering, I need to have a good resume so I get a job in ISRO. You know, literally, I was thinking like this. And to get that good resume, what and all I need to do, I have to get that thing right. In first year, I saw first time Jitendra. He was very hands-on person. So Jitendra is also from a very humble middle class family. He also studied in Hindi medium, so he didn't know English. He
Okay.
could only speak in Hindi. I could only speak in Kannada, so we never met in first year. But I saw him couple of times because there were a couple of boys in our college who used to take, you know, time off so they could build some robots. I was like, okay, these guys are building robots. We are just doing some academic stuff. You know, they'll always be on top of us in terms of resume. My brain was only working towards resume. Then second year, my professor came and they said, okay, we have some competition called SAE Aero Design. And he said, this is going to add value to your resume. You will learn how to build an RC plane and all. This excited me. I said, okay, anything that gives a good resume, I will enroll. Then good part was like all of us, like there were seven. Our team was the best team I would call, like very intellectually strong team. Seven people came together, and Jitendra and me were in the same team. And we picked up people like who are smart in their own stuff, who have built stuff, and academically, some people are very good. Robotics wise, some people are good. Electronics wise, some people are good. We just made like seven people team, and we started working towards it. And even after joining the team for 6 months, me and Jitendra never spoke because he couldn't
Yeah.
communicate in English. I
Yeah.
couldn't communicate back in English. We had our own barrier. So, you know, over by end of third semester or something, we started interacting because it was necessary for the team. All of us started interacting. We had only one person in the team who was team captain who could communicate in all three languages. He used to tell what we are telling and what other team members were telling. That's where we gelled up because our team had all language speaking people. We kind of also learned little bit teasing each other and picking up different languages from each other. Everybody learned a little bit of other languages. Then from fourth semester, I think we started working on it seriously. All of us, I think we have spent most of our time in lab building this aircraft rather than in classroom.
Classroom.
Yeah, because all of us were also getting good grades. Professors didn't had a problem. We used to maintain our CGPA and we used to take time off. Like even without going to class, all of us used to get decent marks. And I was also part of NCC that used to give me some brownie points. If I need any attendance issues, I used to go to my NCC sir and ask, like, can you give me attendance provision? And we used to get an attendance that used to be not a problem. So we used all that time doing hands-on stuff. And that one project taught us a lot because that was the first project we did. There was nobody in the college who knew it already. So we have to figure it out by ourselves, talk to more people, learn from people who have already done it, meet externally take external help, right? Go meet more people outside so you learn from them. All of that exercise we did. And in that competition, like we didn't had a pilot in house. Jitendra had just started learning piloting, and I started learning piloting that time. We were not like fully fledged pilots at that point in time. So we had to rely on an external pilot to fly our model. And that guy screwed it up. And our model, like fell, and we had to do some repair during the competition day. We were all so worried. But one good thing happened was in our own, like from our college, we had 4 teams participating in that year competition. We were so competitive to each other, not even talk, rivalry level. Like, okay, we'll see in the competition who wins. But that day when our model crashed, so ours was the last model to flew. One of our senior model completely crashed. Like it was like piece. It couldn't even assemble it back. Then another teams, it got fire. It caught fire and their model was, damaged.
Yeah.
Then another team, they had forgotten to charge their battery. So in mid-flight, the vehicle broke down. The only hope which was left was our team. And we had built our model in such a way it could take impact. Even if you crash it 3 4 times, this vehicle is like going to take impact.
Mm.
And when we were actually testing it, this competition was for payload, right? Which model can carry payload, highest payload.
Mm.
We had designed it for certain payload. All of us were like, let's take a chance. We trust our model, let's take a chance and put additional payload. We wanted to win the competition. In the urge of winning competition, we said let's go little, high on and put additional payload. So I think we increased our payload by 1 kg or something, 1 or 2 kg. I don't remember it exactly.
Okay.
We did increase. Model was capable of taking that additional payload. But what we forgot to do is the payload bay where we keep the payload, we didn't strengthen it enough.
Okay.
So when the pilot took off and he did a nose dive, the payload hit the bay, the front portion of the bay, and we just kept like 1 mm balsa that couldn't take the load. So when your metallic part comes and hits the wood, it couldn't take load. It directly hit the motor. So the nose part came out and the vehicle fell. Nothing happened to any other part, just the front part came out, nose part came out. The beauty of that is it was raining and our model flew. We were all like almost crying. Everybody of other 3 teams came to help us. Like there were teams who holded, the tarpaulin so we could work on our model. Some people giving their components to us. Some people helping us mix the glue to fix it. Some people going and talking to the event team to make sure we get second chance to fly our model. I think we really learned what is competition, what is team
Yeah.
spirit means in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
moment. The whole 1 year effort was so fulfilling of just witnessing that 30 to 1 hour of that struggle that we did to fix the model and fly it back. It flew very well. And ours was the only model which flew from the college. And we happened to get some all India rank, some 11th or 15th. I don't remember it. We didn't win the competition, but we got some, rank. But we learned a lot in that competition. So post the competition, we were 7 people. All of them went into their own different academics. Some people focused on research. Some people focused on different things. Me and Jitendra said, what, we want to continue doing this. So that's how I think me and Jitendra also started doing a lot of things together post that one project that we did.
Okay, okay. So this entire experience that you shared happened in the second year or
Second.
second year?
Yeah, second. Yeah.
Yeah, so then other 2 years parallelly, I'm sure your language skills were improving. Your
Correct.
bonding in the team must have gone triple fold because of this competition. Uh,
Yes.
but beyond all that, now when you look back, Gautami, what are those important learnings that you have taken, not consciously, very, very unconsciously, from those last 2 years in college? Because the first 2 years you were finding your footing, and the second year was
Mm.
pretty crucial in you finding yourself. And the next 2 years, today, when you look back, has groomed you, I'm sure, to who you are to a major extent on how you handle yourself and people around you. So when you look back, what have been some of those learnings through that experience and post that for the remaining part of your college life?
So I think one thing that we did consciously or unconsciously, we did, and it helped us was sticking to aero modeling.
Yeah.
So when everybody left doing it for a lot of financial constraints, even we had financial constraints, but we took one chance. Like after that competition, we said, okay, let's build another one model. Let's go to a competition. We wanted to win. Like winning was like, it's like a craving, right? You can't accept defeat in the first go. You have to go for the second time. So when we went for the second time, we definitely had financial problem. We somehow pooled in pocket monies and savings and built another model. We built a team externally from the college. So at this point, we only had team from college.
Mm.
When all of them left, we were like, okay, we need team.
Mm.
We need more better team. So we started talking to guys from other colleges. We built a team externally with all other different, students from different college and started learning from them. And once it happened for us, we went to our second competition and we won that competition, and we got some cash prize of like some 35,000. And both me and Jitendra, we pulled in our money. We said if we have to do more project, we can't spend this, so let's buy a laptop. So both of us didn't had a laptop. We used to go back to our friends to ask for laptop, if you could borrow your laptop for some work. He used to do good designing, so even to have your CATIA software on the system, you needed a system.
Mm.
We said, okay, let's pull in, let's buy one good laptop. So we went like almost 2 days spent in SP Road bargaining everybody for every component. We built our first, laptop, got it done, and that's the beginning for us. After that, that gave so much confidence. Then every other competition we went, we won. There was no competition which we didn't win. That resolved our financial, constraints also, because we used to use the same money which used to come from competitions and build another models, do something additionally.
Mm-hmm.
So sticking to something for a long time without giving up is something that helped us as a character also to build over a period of time. And whatever opportunities we have today is only because we did that for 3 years. Otherwise, we would have not thought about doing this or never got this opportunity to build something like this.
Wow. Okay, so what happened to ISRO and your dream to join ISRO after your fourth year?
So what happened was, lockdown happened when I was in third year of engineering,
Okay.
and we all went back to college. And I still had this ISRO dream. So the next phase of it was, I started now, aero modeling and all got a pause for a while. Now I started researching how to join ISRO. Then I understand that the vacancies that are available for mechanical, so aeronautical is not there only, it's only mechanical. And you have to write a separate exam. And to write that, you have to write gate mechanical, not gate aeronautical. Now I have to do a lot of things to write gate mechanical, and then the vacancy is like two or three.
Mm.
I was like, okay, should I get into this rat race or not? I don't know. And I said, okay, let's see what happens. I'll give gate aeronautical, because even aeronautical has an vacancy. It is like one or two type of vacancy. Mechanical had like some 7, 8 intakes. Other aeronautical through gate had one or two intakes. So I said, okay, let me study for gate now. We have 6 months. Let me give it a try. So we exactly had like 6 months. Before that, in the lockdown, before lockdown happens, Jitendra had this idea to build a community app for aero modelers.
Mm.
We want, like how you have WhatsApp and Facebook, we wanted to build something for aero modeling where everybody around the world could come together as a hobbyist and exchange ideas. But we both are not from computer science background. I am very horrible, I'll tell it openly. Jitendra tried to code and build the first version of app. I used to help him with all the content, design, and all of that. We built our first app, but the way it came out, by end of finishing the project, it was not compatible to upload in Play Store. We are like, we are wasting time. Let's not do something that we are not good with. Then I had to convince him because he's my teammate now. So we have to do things together. So I also have to convince him, you know what, let's not waste time. Coding and all, I can't help you much with. I don't see much value also that I'll bring on. I want to study. So both of us, okay, decided, okay, like 6 months, it's lockdown, there's nothing much we can do, we'll study. And there was one senior, I kind of requested him, can you share your notes? Because I didn't take any coaching for GATE exam. I said, okay, I'll study by myself only. And at that point in time, I didn't also wanted to ask my parents to spend additionally on my coaching. So I said, okay, if not coaching, I have to figure out some way to bypass. So I kind of requested a couple of my seniors and asked them, will you be willing to share your coaching videos with me? They were very kind enough. I think only these people have helped me over a period of time. They were kind enough. They have paid like 60,000, 80,000 to coaching, but they didn't hesitate to share that videos with me. He said, it's okay, I'll give you the credentials, you study. More than that person, I think I have utilized those resources. He gave me the credentials, and I used to help him also solve some of the problems that when he used to get. But that videos, that the things that he gave me actually helped me to learn things faster without going to the coaching center, and prepared notes, used to study like, so when I focus on something, I focus like mad, and create my own short notes, long notes, everything I used to make and study for next 6 months. And lockdown was almost relieved, we came back to college, and we had this college syllabus also coming up, because in lockdown none of us studied. Everybody somehow proxy and passed the subjects. When we came back, we had one of the toughest subjects to crack, which was CFD. None of us have studied properly during lockdown, and our GATE exam and final, the SEM exam were all colliding very closely. Have to make sure we somehow get good grades in this also. And this was also affecting GATE exam preparation, because when you're at home, it's a different dynamics. You have your parents who's preparing everything, giving in front of you, and you're just focused on work. But when you're in college campus, you're taught as you have to finish assignments, then you have to also study, revise whatever you have studied. So that was a little bit of a distraction. But I think we gave GATE exam, and I got some all India rank 146. I was like second in my college. The first person was 100 and some 30 or 20, I don't remember. But I was like 146 all India rank. And all my hostel mates and classmates were all like, wow, you got a good rank and all. I was crying. My target was less than 100. I got more. This is not what I expected. And I prepared really well, put in a lot of hard work for preparing for GATE. But when it actually happened, it didn't satisfy. It's like, okay, marks has come, but there were other dynamics that I didn't like, which is like there are a lot of students who are, having lesser marks than you, lesser rank than you, but are able to get into IIT Madras, IIT Bombay because of caste and other quotas, wherein we are in general and not able to get to good college. I was like, what is happening? This is not what you want to fight for. And that one, when we came back to college, right? So Jitendra said, you know what? We studied now. I listened to you, studied. Now you listen to me. Let's build this app. So now I couldn't say no, because I had promised him that we will do, once the exam is over, we'll do something. And he got a friend to introduce to me and said, this guy is from computer science. He can develop an app for us. Let's three join together and do this. And it happened like the guy he got to meet, introduced to me, was my mutual friend from first year. And we three gelled up very well. That guy had a small room where he used to stay, and he used to also freelance. Now, this guy gave us a different dynamics. We didn't know how to make, any sort of, so we didn't know how to make any sort of pocket money apart from aero modeling competition. Wherein this guy was already doing freelance and making like good amount of money. We're like, bro, what are you doing on earth? Teach us also. And he taught us on freelancing how to do. We were in final year. we learned freelancing. We started freelancing our skills in aeronautics. And we started making, like some 25,000 rupees doing freelancing in final year, final semester. We were like, now we got into this confidence level. You know what? If we are able to make 20,000, 25,000, check it. Let's give it 1 year. Let's try. Let's build something. And while we were in final year, we started making this app and we graduated and we took another 4 months. We told in home, okay, we are doing something, we are doing something. They didn't know what we are doing. I was like searching for job, searching for job. They were also, okay, fine. They're searching for job because they also knew it was all pandemic time. All the job market was not doing well and took that as an advantage and told them, okay, you know what, give me some time. I'm searching for job. And we were building this on side. One mistake we did was we were just building. We never went out, spoke to anybody, or never asked the user, do you need it or not? And then one day we were like so exhausted, all three of us. And suddenly our professor shared us some startup expo happening in Hubli or uh, some place in North Karnataka. He said, why don't you guys go? It's going to be a good experience. We are like, okay. It's been long. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't even step out of home. We are just doing this. Let's go. It will be like a trip. This was a 2-day event. We went there. When we went, we took our app that we built. My friend had a iPad. So we took that. And also we took, what do we call? We had at that point in time all these gliders and small aero models, right? We took that also. And we were so lame to go to such, exhibition with the A4 sheets with color prints talking about a product. 2 papers, just 2 A4 sheets, one iPad and couple of static models. We went there and when we saw everybody, they have like amazing stalls. They had like product display and they had everything. We have just gone like, okay, like just like that. We didn't take it seriously. We went there and we set up our stall. There was nothing to set up. We just kept our iPad and 2 A4 papers that we stuck to the backdrop, and three of us standing. And each one of us like, you tell, you tell. I can't speak, you tell. So both Jitendra and my other friend who was there, yeah, both of us are like, no, you talk. We will not talk, you go pitch. So they just left the stage for me. And that competition, that exhibition was designed in a way, there were a couple of investors and where each member of, like each startup get to pitch to them, take their feedback. And there were also some competition based on the pitch that you do. There was competition and you also get some prize and all of that. Day one, we just pitched to everybody that came to our stall. We're like, can you download our app? Can you do this? Can you do that? And we pitched to the investors also. And all these investors who were there, nobody gave out a single expression on their face. We were too early in our journey to even understand all of this. Then the first day event was over. We were all discouraged. We were like, no expression. That means they didn't like us. So let's not waste our time. We have another 1 day in this city. Let's go roam around. So next day we are supposed to go. And both my other two co-founders kind of convinced, let's not go. We'll go sightseeing, then go back to Bangalore. Then we all agreed upon as a team, okay, anyways, we are not going to win. Let's go and see different places around and we'll go home. We did exactly the same. And our confidence was in a way like if we have actually won, then the organizer would call us. If the organizer doesn't call, that means we have not won. So simple. We went, we did sightseeing, we didn't get any call. We all three are like, we made a very good decision. Nobody called. If we had gone, we would have been humiliated. We started assuming things to ourselves. We came back to Bangalore. After a day or two, the organizer called us. He's like, why didn't you guys show up on the second day? We said, why means what? We didn't win, we didn't show up. Like, how do you know you didn't win? If we won, you would have called us. Then this guy says, switch the winner because you were not present in the venue.
Oh my
We
God.
had to give that to somebody else in the that startup expo because you guys didn't show up. We're like, are you serious? You should have called us. We were in the same city. We're like, no, that's against our policy. We had to give it to the next person who was available on this day too. But this person who was the organizer got interested in our aero modeling thing that we had presented. He said, I'm interested in investing in you guys. I would like to come and meet you, see your team and everything. Like, there's no team. There's only three of us. You have already seen all three of us. You can come down to Bangalore. You can spend a day with us. So that person flew from there. He spent a night, a day, 2 days, a night in Bangalore. He sat with us. He understood everything, and he wanted to scale and take this aero modeling to a different level. And this person gave us this idea. There is something called as Elevate Grant. He is the first guy who told us about it. We were like 1 week before the deadline. At that point in time, we didn't even had a GST number. So he's like, GST number is mandatory to apply for this thing. We said, okay, fine, next time we'll apply. And so everything went well. We spoke. We were like so pumped up. Oh, we are having an investor. And we were asking like Bill Gates level, valuation. Very, very naive, right? Like we didn't know anything and we are asking we need 100 crore and all of that. So funny if I remember it now. And so this person finally was telling, I will invest, I'll give you that, I'll give you this. Then Jitendra, a very straightforward person, he got onto a call. He's like, don't tell me you'll give that this. Tell me what you'll give, how much you'll give. How much money are you going to give? Both me and my other friend were like, oh, this is getting serious. Should we talk like this or not? He was like, cutthroat. Tell us, sir, tell us how much money you will put. Then that guy was like, I'll put some 10, 15 lakh. Then we're like, okay, sir, thank you so much for your time. We moved on. And because he had told Elevate, that was there in back of my head. So I went and I just searched about what is Elevate, and we applied for their call too. We applied two proposals at the same time, I think, and one for Elevate and different competitions. Don't know what and all we applied. We forget. We apply. We forget, and we get a call. Like we got selected for this Tai U Mysuru. That was a change point for us. When we got selected, they called us saying that tomorrow you have a pitch. I'm asking, sir, can you tell me which idea did we present? Because there were multiple ideas that we were pitching at that point. One was amphibious drone, which we're building now, was our final year project also. Because we built that in final year project, we wanted to continue building that. We said, we are engineers, we want to build good product. And how to build a good product without money was a problem. Then we said, okay, we also want to make this aero modeling app, which is not working out. And we took a pause on the aero modeling app. We discontinued it. And we now wanted to build this product. So we started pitching this idea. In Tai U, our aero modeling idea got picked up. They said, you're selected for this aero modeling idea. We're like, okay, whichever gets selected, we'll learn. Then we went, we had to, we undergone some 3 sessions with them. They do a masterclass on storytelling, masterclass, and all of this. We did that with them. That was a good exercise, teaching for us. And they had this demo day. At that point in time, nothing we did, we took seriously. We're like, okay, there's one more, expo type of a thing. Let's go and do. And one day before, one of our friend comes, he's like, are you serious? You're going to be presenting here. You should know what is the theme looks like, what is the screen, what is the light, where is the light, what color will be the presentation. You should prepare all of like, do we have to do all of this? He's like, no, you have to literally do all of this if you have to give a good presentation and all. Then he helped us prepare a good, decent presentation. Then when we go there, we were also planning to go without suit, just go just like that. Then our friend was like, no, guys, you have to go in a suit. So we said, okay, whatever suit we had, we wore. We went in that uh, for that event, demo day. That was a student pitch fest. That was TAIU Student Pitch Fest. We were selected. We went there. There were top 5 finalists, and ours was the first pitch. And this is the first time I'm doing a presentation. In in my end, I've done debate in my own native language, all of that. But in engineering, I never got a chance to present. Nowhere. So after a long time, I'm doing a stage presentation. I was so scared that day, so scared. And both me and Jitendra, till last minute, we are fighting. You go. He's like, you go. I was like, no, you go. I can't do this. Both of us are still fighting. Who should go on the stage? And both of us were very scared. And Jitendra was more scared. So he pushed me, no, you go. And he always pushed me to be on the front. You go, you do it. And I went onto the stage. First minute, I'm just uttering whatever came to my mind, the first 1 minute. I think after that second minute, I picked up. This was a 7 minute pitch. After the second minute, I picked up. I got some settled down on the stage and I did a presentation. I knew in my head I have not done a great work. So then the questions were open to all the juries. The good part of this whole pitch was not my pitch, is the juries who asked me the questions. They asked me some good questions, which I'm good at. If somebody asked me something, I could tell them what it is. One of the jury said that, "Can you sell this kit to me?" I was like, "Oh my God, this guy is asking me to sell something. I have no idea what sales means at that point in time." Backside, somebody told founders has to be the sales people and all. Just asked him what is a good salesperson look like. He's like, nothing. This is very simple. You just have to do a conversation with your customer. That is all a good salesperson does. We're like, okay, fine, thank you, sir. And when this person asked me that question, in my head, okay, I have to just do a conversation with this guy. I have no idea what sales is. Then I went on to the stage. That video is there on YouTube. I went on to asking him in Kannada. I took a leverage to speak in Kannada because he's a Mysorean. I asked him, what is your child do? And a couple of questions like that. And my questions got exhausted. I don't know what is my next question. And for that particular question, when I asked him about his child's education, he said, and he's like, okay, you have a sale. I was like, okay. And that was actually a break point in the whole presentation. That 7 minute, whatever I did I was not satisfied. But when he said you have a sale, every crowd recognized. Everybody started, clapping and they recognized, okay, there is something. And that gave us so much. How it happened, we don't know. Was I ready for that question? No. Was I knew what is going to be my next question? No. Like there was no next question in my head which I would have asked him. It's all God's plan that he said that particular thing. And that day we got runner-up prize in TAIU Pitch Fest. And this is the first time we understood in building business, what's important is networking. Everything else comes next. That's where I think for us, the journey of actual entrepreneurship started from TAI Mysuru Student Pitch Fest.
This is amazing. Every bit of your journey has some unknown presence playing such an important role to bring in the right person, to give you the right inputs when you need it. And how did you come up with the name Aqua Air X? Was there a purpose behind the name, or did you just sit together, think of a name, and come up with this? How is the name this? Why Aqua Air X?
So we have like the first brand that we built. We first had a name called Aeronuts because we were not at that point in time to do something in this space. We just named it Aeronuts. Then some people advised us, what you're doing this, so you have to do better branding, make it Aero Go, give inspiration to the young childrens to reach positions like where they could be in Indigo. That was the actual
Oh,
Aerogo
okay.
and Indigo sort of a thing that we did. We did a little bit of branding exercise
Okay.
by doing
Okay.
all of this. So
Hmm.
when we had to name for Aquarex, we were like, what's our, and also Jitendra is very much driven or inspired by Elon Musk. So he
Okay.
used to follow a lot of SpaceX things. So there
Okay.
was X in SpaceX.
Yeah.
And we wanted to build products. We wanted to build especially this UAVs and all of this for
Hmm.
both air and underwater, because our amphibious drone is for both air and underwater. So we're
Okay.
like, okay, let's bring both the domains together. There's one aqua, then there is air, then there is X. X can be any innovation that you
Anyway.
do in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how Aquairix was phrased. So when we had to register it as a private limited company, we're like, only Aquairix will not look cool. It has to be something. So like Aquairix Autonomous Systems Private Limited. So that's
Okay.
how the name was also.
And your logo there,
You could actually see a drone
huh?
which is in both water and air. It's in
And
the
yeah.
transition. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what a flagship product is, which is amphibious drone, which does the transition from air to water and water to air. So that's how the
Oh,
logo also came. Both you have like air, the white part of it, blue, the water part of it, and there's an vehicle which is in between them.
between.
So
Oh,
bridging that gap, yeah. That's how
wow.
we designed the logo also.
Very nice. Okay, such a beautiful story. And I like what you have written behind, which reads like our vision is to design and develop the world's most sophisticated autonomous vehicle technologies. Now, you have started with a dream, ISRO. You moved in that direction to aeronautics, and then you realized that's not the path, but you took it in your stride, made sure that you are doing today what you truly love.
Yeah.
A lot of women, Gautami, do not get to a place where their dreams can be fulfilled or midway. Do you see a lot of women in your space? Because this is a space not very many women really venture into. And yours also was a plan that just moved with life. You just moved with life, and life showed you a path. Not everyone is that fortunate as well. So, what would you like to tell women, especially since this month is dedicated to women? And there are a lot of women. I feel having a day or a month is not enough because a lot of women carry a lot of dreams that go unfulfilled because of different situations. What would
Yeah.
you like to tell the women who set out on a journey but couldn't fulfill it and now want to come back but are not confident enough? What would you like to tell them?
So my only take would be that as you said, this is a male dominant industry.
Yeah.
Like me being one of the female CEO running the company, still majority of our workforce is men,
Hmm.
right? Because one, there's not a lot of women out there who's ready to take up such hardware centric work, which
Hmm.
requires a lot of physical, it demands a lot on physical level. You have to travel a lot. You have to go to offshore, conditions and do tests, which is highly demanding. I think a lot of women out there are capable of doing it. I didn't know for myself that I could do all of this until I do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows it. All you have to do is take at least an year
Hmm.
and figure that out.
Hmm.
Everybody has got their own skills. Everybody has got their own talent in different way.
Hmm.
Now, all you have to do is trust in your own self and take that at least 1 year. So nobody is like, as Kunal Shah says, if you dedicate 1 year for a startup, either you'll become a good entrepreneur. If you fail as an entrepreneur, you'll at least become a good employee. You're not losing. So dedicating at least 1 year to try. A lot of people fail in trying.
Hmm.
At least if you take that 1 year and say like, okay, I have like got 1 year, I'll put everything I have to make sure within this year I'll do something.
Hmm.
And if you try and give that try, as you said, that unknown support will come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even today, I believe in my own journey, without that support, unknown support, X factor that is associated with us, there wouldn't have been growth with us.
Yeah.
Every phase of our life, we have seen such instances happen where we thought, okay, nothing is going to work out, but we get help at the right time.
Yeah,
And people give a right type of information at the right time.
correct.
And in our company also, we see a lot of women who have much caliber and potential to take up leadership roles because of, as a woman, you have a lot of multi tasking skills. You could think, you can bring empathy into the work that you do. And these skills as a default, we all have. So we have to leverage the default skills that we have and tap on that in a right direction. And we just need to believe. You should not believe the messaging that the world gives you that you can't do. A lot of time, and even I go to different rooms, there are such eyeballs that comes, what can a girl do types, but you should not get carried away by their opinion. You should know for yourself you're brave enough. You should know for yourself there are a lot of good men out there who will support you.
Yeah.
And you should be confident enough to tell on anybody's face that what's your worth is. Nobody is going to decide that for you. Just be brave, confident, and give it a try. Things will happen. Just give it a try and be bold. There is nothing that will bypass confidence and bold. You could be a little more technically not sounding, but if you are confident, you can still bypass things. I think confidence is the key. You need to be confident wherever you go. If you're that, people will recognize, opportunities will come. You will start gaining more confidence as you do more things. Taking that one step will change a lot for them.
Yeah.
And don't think like these domains are not for you. It's going to demand a lot from you, but give it a try is what I would say.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true because automobiles also is one area where we see more men, but
Correct.
Tata took the lead in creating an all-woman setup,
Yes.
and we are seeing the result of the confidence of the women. So, do you feel many a time that women need a push or women need someone to pull them to say that, you know what, you can do it?
Yeah, both. I see it like a lot of the times it's both the ways. I have my own team member. I think she has so much potential, but she just doesn't believe that to herself. It like people can push you to an extent, but if you can't believe it for yourself, you can only go so much.
Yeah.
It's both the way. In my place, I'm very ambitious as a person. I already believe, even if I can't achieve, I already believe that I'm good. So because I'm already very ambitious person, I already believe that I can do a lot. So now
Yeah.
all I need is somebody to help me to go there. But there are a lot of women, though they have potential. I've seen a lot of women who are far better than me, and intellectually, in all their own potential, right? They sometimes feel for themselves that they're not good enough. I think this, I see it a lot in women's. Even if they are much better than any other male counterpart, they think they're not good enough. In that way, they keep themselves. I've seen this also a lot of time. I've seen this somewhere that I've read saying that. So a male would usually apply for a job even if they're 60% ready. Wherein a female would wait for like until they perfect it up to 90-95% and then apply. I've read this somewhere and it is very true that we tend to perfect everything and then take a start. But to take a start, you shouldn't, there is no necessity for you to be perfect. You just start. That is what it demands. And I think it's true. I see it in my own team also. A lot of time women need a push. More than push, you need to believe in yourself. Then help will come to you. If you can't believe in yourself, no matter how many people push you, you can't reach.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
like a ladder, right? My mother used to tell me, my father and mother used to tell me that we can only, give you support till whatever we could raise our hands. After that, it's your own strength that you have to walk the next steps in the ladder. It's the same. And people can only help you to an extent.
Yeah.
After that, it becomes your own responsibility, your own dream to move the next ladder steps.
Yeah, the rungs of the ladder. That's so true. And recently I saw your announcement on LinkedIn. So tell us about that happy, great news.
We happened to raise our seed round. with Rain Matter and Prime, Visor did a follow-on round. And we have, also India Accelerator joining us. All some of the good names in the
Yeah.
market and some of the well-renowned investors have joined hands. Very happy. Team is very happy. We are happy to get associated with such good brands. I think from now onwards, there is no going back. We're gonna kill it.
All the best on that journey forward. But you spoke about COVID and you were studying at that point of time. COVID has been a huge teacher for all of us. What have your lessons been from COVID?
So for me, COVID has been like every pandemic. You could look at it in two ways, either in a good way or in a loss-making way. The way we looked at is at that point in time, I could have sat, cried, and thought, okay, there is no job in the market, and went back to my village and did something. The other part of the story is where you shine,
Hmm.
where we didn't even think about the negative things that were happening in the world, but we focused on the positive side of it. Can we do something? Can we utilize this time? Can we freelance? Because it was, pandemic, a lot of work from home, work from studies from home. We had a lot of international students who needed help.
Okay.
We made use of that. We freelanced for a while. We made our basic convenience stability. We bought into our finance. Then we took a step. So you should always be opportunist to look out. In any pandemic, there's always an opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's, they always say, right, it's half empty or half full, the glass.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
must always look at it in a positive way. And when you look at things, things do happen. Pandemic taught us that you can't be like half empty types. You have to be like, okay, at least half full, and see what can you do with that. That's been our lesson. And team is always your strength. Have right people around you. You become what you surround with. Surround yourself with good positive people, so you attract positivity in life.
Well said. That's so true. That applies to anything in life, even in relationships.
Correct.
And finally, three life lessons that you'd like. You're really young, but three life lessons got to me because you've seen so much more of life. Sometimes it's not age by count of years, but the experiences. And in the last few years, the experiences that you've had with life is something that's worthy of a book itself. So, what are three major life lessons that you'll be taking forward?
Uh, as I said, I don't know if I'm right person to say this, but there used to be an instances where I used to tell my mother that you do a lot of help. And I used to get irritated by it because even when she doesn't have, she used to help others. And she used to always tell me this back then, that if not today, the help will come back in some form. She used to always tell this and continue to do her work even when we said don't do. Right? Back then, it used to not resonate with me. Right? Now it resonates very well with me because I know all that help she has done is coming back to me. So I see that there are a lot of good people around. Don't be in an illusion that there's nobody to help you out.
Yeah.
There is that X factor, and that X factor comes to you in different formats. So now I'm a very big believer of that. Any help never goes unnoticed by any superpower that exists. It always comes back to you when you most need it. And God also knows when to give and not to give, which is the right plan for you. The power knows it better than you. So help others, you will get help. That is one philosophy that I follow now. And second thing is your intentions of whatever you're doing has to be right.
Mhm.
If the intent is right, everything else will fall in place. If your intention is wrong, no matter what amount of good work you do outside, at the end, it's going to be a crash down game. I don't know. These two other things that I believe in.
Okay, great. Amazing talking to you, Gautami. I'm so glad we got on this conversation. May God bless you always, and may you find that X factor shining brighter each time when you need it most, and to guide you in your amazing journey that I'm sure you are having in front of you. God bless you and your entire team, and all the very best in all that you do. Such a pleasure having you on You and I with Rashmi Shetty.
Thank you so much, Rashmi ma'am. Pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you. With that, we complete this episode of You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Do let us know if you know inspirational people whose story needs to be heard. You can write in at rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com. That is rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com.